Introducing Fidelity Trader Plus, the next generation of advanced trading from Fidelity. Customize your tools and charts and access them seamlessly across desktop, web, and mobile. For faster trades, anywhere you go. Try the all-new Fidelity Trader Plus. Learn more about our most powerful trading platform yet at fidelity.com/trader plus. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE, SIPC.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief, and your host of Under the Dome for our latest episode this week of March 4th, 2024. Tomorrow, Tuesday, March 5th, is the North Carolina primary election. We've only been talking about it forever. It's Super Tuesday, which means a whole bunch of other states also have their primaries. But obviously, ours is the most important because North Carolina is the best state. So I'm here with my politics team colleagues, Avi Bajpai and Kyle Ingram, giving you everything you need to know, the latest news, what to watch for tomorrow, what's going on. Let's start with money, which is such a huge factor in all elections, except maybe at local government level.
Yeah.
So the latest numbers, Avi, you've got a report on who's raking it in. So where do things stand?
Yeah, so we're looking at the two most prominent statewide races, the two races that everyone has been suspecting would turn out to be the most expensive ones in North Carolina this year. Starting off with the governor's race. So these numbers cover the first 7 weeks of this year. So from January 1st until February 17th, this is how much the candidates brought in. So Attorney General Josh Stein
the Democratic frontrunner for the primary. I hope everybody knows by now, but just in case you don't.
Yeah, in case you haven't heard of Josh Stein, is leading the pack. He raised $2.2 million. He had $12.7 million on hand, which is a very impressive haul. Mark Robinson, the Republican frontrunner, raised just under $717,000 and reported $4.4 million on hand. So, I mean, just looking at those two sets of numbers, Stein is finishing this reporting period with almost 3 times as much raised and money in the bank, which is pretty significant. You have to keep in mind we still have 8 months until November, so there's plenty of time to raise more money, and this doesn't even include outside spending.
Well, so yeah, and that seems like a big disparity, but I think this is a trend we've seen in other elections before where the Democrat pretty significantly outraises the Republican here in North Carolina, but it's definitely not a guaranteed win because of that.
One thing, too, is that Stein is supported by outgoing Democratic Governor Roy Cooper. And one thing, Republicans say, too, that Roy Cooper is very good at raising money. And Cooper, has endorsed Stein, supported Stein, was Stein's mentor. So a lot of that fundraising appeal that Cooper has is kind of transferred over to Stein.
Yeah.
And maybe just a lot of money where Democrats don't want Mark Robinson to win, so they're already betting on Stein. And then, of course, Robinson is getting all the money from people who want a Republican governor.
Yeah. Plus, Stein launched his campaign more than a year ago. He kicked it off January of 23. Robinson was a few months after that. So Stein had a little more time to sort of get that political machine up and running. But anyways, those are some significant numbers for the governor's race. We have the rest of the numbers for the other candidates. If you check out this past Friday's Under the Dome newsletter, you can find all of those there. Now, quickly for the attorney general's race, similar thing going on. Jeff Jackson, Democratic congressman who's the front runner for his party's primary, raised $927,000 in this period. He had $2.4 million on hand. And Dan Bishop, his likely opponent, the only Republican running, raised $205,000, had $1.4 million on hand. So again, there's a disparity there, but we're fully expecting the outside groups, the Republican and Democratic attorneys general associations, to plug in a lot of money. So this is going to be, I think the bottom line is the leading Democrats have an edge here, but we have 8 months left. And you're going to see a lot more PAC money, outside groups. There's a lot of money going to be flowing into these races.
And there's a little strategy too, right? If you have to spend more money in the primary, then you have less money, like with these PACs that have paid for seemingly to promote Democrats, but more about trying to get people to spend money because it's like every penny, I guess, is going to count once you're at the general. And Bishop is just a shoo-in. He's not on primary ballots, right? Because it's just him.
Bishop is preparing for November right now. Yeah, you have this. You have efforts to what basically looks like in the Attorney General's race, an outside group coming in late in the game and spending several hundreds of thousands of dollars and trying to sort of weaken perhaps Jeff Jackson's money advantage.
Does it seem do you think Jackson's money means that he's going to defeat D. Barry in the primary, the Durham district attorney?
I think there's several factors that lead people to, look at those two top candidates, Jackson and D. Barry, and conclude that Jackson is the front runner. He's the leading candidate. It's name recognition. It's his, recent runs for statewide office. So he's been in front of voters in a statewide sense a lot, basically running for U.S. Senate in 2021, running for Congress, winning that race. All of his kind of exposure on social media, his outreach, the TikToks, all of that, I think, builds up. So
over time with, I guess, North Carolina voters, even if like the TikTok is outside North Carolina. Well, plus he's from Charlotte, and that's, obviously a larger population center than others. Yeah. And of course, D. Barry is Durham, right? But Durham's not as big as Charlotte. Yeah. So.
The D. Barry campaign, D. Barry has made her argument for why the money doesn't necessarily mean that, Jackson is going to run away with the race. She emphasizes really strongly, she has strong support in Durham. She says she's won two tough campaigns in Durham for DA. And she's been campaigning across the state. She talks about her grassroots support. She also talks about the specific constituencies. She says, Black voters, women voters, some rural voters, seniors. Her argument is, she's going to excite and turn out those voters more than Jackson could. So we're going to find out on Tuesday. It's just a couple days away.
One other thing before we get back to statewide races, since we were talking about Durham, something to watch tomorrow is that longtime Durham State Senator, Democrat Mike Woodard, is being primaried. And if he loses, that's going to be a big shift at the legislative level. Woodard has occasionally worked with Republicans for what he has said to get things for either things he thinks are good policy, nothing big controversial, nothing like that. But those that also mean that Durham gets things, because Durham is very blue politically. The legislative building is very red and politically.
Woodard is operating in a very red building. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if he loses and someone else goes, it'll be interesting to see what that means long term from Durham. But we'll see what the Durham voters have decided. If they feel like sometimes voters tell you, through a new candidate that it's time for you to go and they want somebody else, or they'll actually confirm that they like the job you were doing and, want to send you back. So that's one to watch.
We're going to see multiple races where that's sort of put to the test with these moderate Democrats who are being primaried, some with like pretty big institutional support from to their challengers. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
My guess is we'll have, kind of a range of like maybe someone will end up losing, and then maybe, I don't know. That's like kind of the fun for us as reporters on primary night is like, there's no way to know. All these polls, it's all speculation. There's some date science, whatever, but it's mostly speculation. So
especially in races where you have a very large field. Yes. Like the lieutenant governor's race.
Yes. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, nice segue, Avi. Sure. We're going to talk about the lieutenant governor's race, which could end up meaning a second primary. Anyway, so we'll talk about that. When we come back, we'll talk about what you need to remember about voter ID. And the presidential race is a big thing too. So we'll talk about that in our headliners. We'll be right back.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wreck your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with my politics team colleagues Kyle Ingram and Avi Bajpai. Before the break, we were talking about money and the governor's race and the attorney general's race and everything to watch for tomorrow. And lieutenant governor I'm particularly interested in because it's a crowded primary. In 2020, the lieutenant governor primary was a crowded primary. We weren't really sure it was going to happen. And then somebody we all know as Mark Robinson ended up winning. So that actually changed state history on multiple levels. He was the first Black lieutenant governor. It's a Republican frontrunner for governor. He is not a person that's not on anyone's radar if you pay attention to politics at all, which is kind of what the role of lieutenant governor is. That you really don't have a whole lot to do, so you can make a name for yourself or not and kind of just sort of fade into the background. So, and you don't know who is going to win the primary. I remember in 2020 when Robinson won, some of the other candidates were like longtime North Carolina political, like either employees, politicians.
People who've been around for a while.
But then it was Buddy Bengal, this guy down on the coast who owns a restaurant and a baseball team. And we're like, well, is it going to be him? Is it going to be the former head of public instruction? That guy got almost no votes. So you don't know. Mark Robinson came out. So there's always surprises because it's a race that's not a lot of power, not a lot of radar, but you can make it what you want. So on the Democratic side, the list is pretty short. It's mainly Rachel Hunt is the front runner. She and Ben Clark have been getting into it. Mm-hmm. He's a former state senator. Rachel Hunt is a current senator. And on the Republican side, it's a long list that includes among them two, if Rachel Hunt ends up winning and she's like real focused on education, two on the Republican primary side are also integral to education policy. It's former state senator Deanna Ballard, who she's campaigning on, and she absolutely was an integral part during the pandemic of getting schools to reopen. And then Jeffrey Elmore in the House, he is an art teacher. So that's two different education level things. There's also Sam Page, the sheriff of Rockingham County, which is where Senate Leader Berger is from. So that would be really interesting.
And those two don't have a great working relationship.
No. So if Page won the Republican primary and then won, that dynamic in the Senate, because the lieutenant governor presides over the Senate, and the Senate president pro tem, who's full Berger, it usually doesn't, except the way things have gone in recent history is that it's Berger the vast majority of the time, not just with Robinson, but when former Lieutenant Governor Dan Forest was in office. So Kyle, you said you've paid attention some to the Hunt-Clark interactions. It's a little contentious, I guess, or at least on social media.
I mean, yeah, they're the only candidates running in the Democratic primary. Ben Clark has said that Rachel Hunt doesn't have the experience for the job. He noted that she's the daughter of Governor Jim Hunt. And I think there's maybe some Nepo baby discourse going on. I don't think that phrase was used, but...
She is in the Senate, so she is an actual senator. So there is that. Yes. And Clark also was in the Senate. Clark was a target. We were talking about the moderate Democrats being targets by their party. I feel like he ran for Congress, so that's why he left the Senate unsuccessfully last time. But he was one of the Senate Democrats that broke occasionally on certain issues, like schools reopening, which is Ballard's big campaign thing. So it's kind of a toss up, really. The money, I know, like we've all been looking at the money. Some of the top fundraisers are like Elmore and Ballard. I think Hal Weatherman, who's the former, chief of staff or staffer for Dan Forest, has done well. And then Jim O'Neill, Seth Woodall. It's like there's a long list of people. Sorry if I didn't mention you. There's just so many of you, and I don't have the list. Also, I will say our candidate questionnaires we've done in our voter guide, almost all of the lieutenant governor candidates filled them out. So thanks. All right. So as we speak, we're recording this on Friday afternoon. Vice President Kamala Harris is here. I actually passed her on the road coming from Durham. I was on the PBS and WNC these past few days, and I was on 40, and I saw a helicopter coming down, and I thought it was the other side. And I was like, oh, I bet Kamala Harris is here now, because I wasn't sure of the exact time, because I'm not the one covering it today. And then here comes motorcycle, and here comes the next motorcycle, and the road was clear. And it was actually kind of cool to see, because there was one time where with presidential visits, if people don't know, and vice presidential visits, sometimes with press, they'll do pool or only the people that travel with them, and you come to the event. Sometimes you can go basically spend the day with them for a 1-hour thing where you go through all layers of security and waiting on a shuttle bus. So I've been in that shuttle bus before where the road is just clear, which is kind of cool to see from that end. But I haven't seen it as just a random commuter, thankfully on the other side of the road. So I didn't have to stop. So it's motorcycle, motorcycle, motorcycle. Then here come like the big cars with the flags. And then here come like these Escalades, the white shuttle buses, which are definitely the press. They don't get the fancy, black cars, like the random white cars. And then way down the road, you see the big line of cop cars. And then all the people who aren't going anywhere because they're waiting for the vice president to get through. So our transportation reporter, Richard Stradling, always brings our readers the latest on what to expect traffic-wise. And then, we're recording this again before you'll hear it, but on Saturday, Nikki Haley planned to be in Raleigh. I'll be covering that, so check our coverage. And former President Donald Trump is going to be in Greensboro. Avi, you're going to be there.
He's going to be doing a rally in Greensboro. We're expecting multiple other Republicans to be there, speak before him, and get out the vote, speak to Trump supporters, rally them. So, follow all of our coverage. Head to our website, check out, Dawn and I will be tweeting from the events. So keep up with that.
Right. And
or tweeting or posting on Threads, whatever you prefer.
I'm also on Threads. Avi gives me grief because I use that too, but more and more people.
I have nothing against Threads. No.
You should get an account then. So there are like a couple logistical things to know for Election Day. Kyle, keep us up with ID and returns.
Yeah, as you may have known, voter ID is going to be in effect for this election. So you're going to have to show a photo ID when you go to vote. There's a list of approved ones on the state board's website. And then one other thing to keep an eye out for and remember is that we may get election results a little bit later than usual this year. That's because of a bill that was passed by the Republican supermajority that says they can't start counting the early votes until polls close on Election Day. Most people are assuming this is going to be just about a 30-minute to an hour delay, so just keep an eye out for that.
Okay, so refresh on the Board of Elections website. We can just chill out for a minute and eat. I'm going to go first with my headliner of the week. Election night pizza. It's a newsroom tradition. Can't wait to have non-nutritional food while we hit refresh for those late returns.
It's just the right thing to do. It's the tradition.
It is. Yeah, it's tradition. Yeah. Okay. All right, Avi, who or what is your headline?
I'm going to continue the food theme. Anyone who's a fan of Krispy Kreme out there, go vote on Tuesday, then go to Krispy Kreme and you can get 2 free donuts. They're doing a promo for Election Day. 2 free donuts. You don't have to. I'm getting this from people.com, so check my verify it for yourself, but it says no purchase necessary. You just give them a promo code Tuesday, TWOSDAY, Tuesday.
For democracy.
Two donuts on Election Day. Is that a Republican donut and a Democrat donut?
It's whatever way you want to split it.
One blue donut, one red donut, no green donut. Okay, Kyle, what's your headliner?
My headliner of the week is the stunning movie Madam Web. I saw it in theaters with some of our coworkers last week. That is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life, but one of the best theater experiences I've ever had in my life because it was hilarious. And I actually left the theater with tears streaming down my face because I was laughing so hard in the last 30 minutes.
All right. Group movie viewing makes bad movies better. All right, y'all. We'll come at you next week. Actually, earlier than next week, we're doing a Twitter space that you can check all our promotions from News Observer and Charlotte Observer right after the election. And we'll talk to you again soon.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.